So let's talk about what introverts bring uniquely that are our superpowers that would make us great leaders and help us excel.
Yeah. So first I want to say introverts can be alphas. So I consider myself an alpha introvert.
An alpha intro. Wait a minute. You're not going to just
It
glaze
is
over.
possible. It
You're not
is
going to glaze,
possible.
but you're not going to glaze over that though.
I'm not going to glaze over that. I'll come back to it. So I think listening is by far the biggest superpower that introverts have because because we're not talking to hear ourselves talk, we actually are hearing all of the conversation in the room. The second superpower, those three things make introverts extremely powerful, and every team needs an introvert or two on them for long-term sustainable success.
What about the beware ofs, the things that introverts should be careful about that could hold them back if they're not aware?
So I'd say the first is not owning your voice, because second, I would say.
Okay, so that brings us to another of Marshall's habits from the book, which was adding too much value can be a bad habit. So overdoing it basically when you're trying to add value. So I think we've touched on that a little bit, but I want to talk about it from the point of allowing space for others. So introverts they value deep thinking, right?
Yeah.
Very detailed oriented, a lot of depth. So how do you share that type of insight in a meeting? Like if somebody else has presented an idea, right? And then you've examined that and you have a deeper thought about it, right? Something with maybe with more context. How can you share that insight without it seeming like you're tinkering too much with a colleague's idea it might have been more simplified?
Yeah, okay. We never want to take away from anyone else's idea. I think the deep analysis part comes into an opportunity to amplify what they said and say, what I heard you say, or the idea that you presented was X. Here's an angle that might strengthen it, or let me build on that, right?
Okay.
So it's about being additive to what they've taken. And then if you're always focused on advancing the organization, not yourself, but the organization, if they have a great idea and you, through your thinking, can add or bolt onto it, that's a win. That's huge. And therefore, there's no critique. It's just a value add for the organization. They may learn something from it, and you certainly learn something from it, from their original concept, right?
Yeah.
So it's a way that you can honor their gift and their offering, and you can maintain the relationship, and you can still move the work to a smarter place.
Yeah. And two, you could phrase it as a question, kind of like what you were saying earlier, asking questions. So maybe you take what they originally said and you say, well, were you also thinking? And then you kind of add your insight, right? That way, maybe they were thinking what you're sharing, but they didn't express it well, or they didn't know how to express it, right? So it doesn't come across as you meddling with their idea or tinkering with it, but expanding upon it, right?
Right. There's a balance there, though, because sometimes if the question has to be phrased the right way, because if it's phrased the wrong way, it feels like you're challenging their assumptions.
Okay.
So there's a subtle nuance there and I'm sure you considered X, right, as your bolt on versus did you consider X?
Okay. Got it. And then knowing who you're talking to, if you know the audience or you know your peers and colleagues and you've gotten to know them, that can help inform how you approach it too, if you have awareness into their personalities and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Because some people you can ask a question. Some people, that's not going to go well. I don't care how you phrase it. They're going to take it personally. So
yeah, emotional intelligence.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And then if we talk about from a DISC perspective, DISC assessment, sometimes maybe a high D, right? Somebody who really drives towards results. They look to someone that's more detail oriented, more of a C, to kind of fill in those details.
Right.
And so it could be kind of welcomed, or maybe people are looking to you to add that. So don't be bashful about adding it in those scenarios, because that might be on the team, that might be your role, is to bring that context.
Yeah, you could say from an execution perspective, here are the other things that we would need to consider,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you're showing this is my swim lane. This is why I'm thinking about these things, but I think your idea is amazing.
Yeah. And I've probably even said, okay, so just to make sure I'm on the right track or I'm not off base, or these are things that we would want to consider, right? That's
Yeah,
another way you could kind of squeeze it in there without damaging anybody's egos.
absolutely.
Okay, so based on what you've said, it sounds like introverts have a lot of assets that they bring to the table that can help them elevate professionally. When often, when you look at examples of leaders, they tend to to put alpha personalities on a pedestal
Mhm.
as far as leaders, and so some of us don't perceive ourselves as leaders because of that reason. So let's talk about what introverts bring uniquely that are our superpowers that would make us great leaders and help us excel. Can you name some of those?
Yeah. So first I want to say introverts can be alphas. So I consider myself an alpha introvert.
An alpha intro. Wait a minute. You're not going to just
It
glaze
is
over it.
possible. It
You're not
is
going to glaze,
possible.
but you're not going to glaze over that though.
I'm not going to glaze over that. I'll come
So,
back to come back to it. I want to answer your question.
okay.
So I think listening is by far the biggest superpower that introverts have because we literally, because we're not talking to hear ourselves talk, we actually are hearing all of the conversation in the room, the subtle and the not so subtle. The second superpower is our ability to bring all of that conversation together and synthesize it in a very succinct package. And our third superpower is we are often the voice of calm in the reason in the room because we can we can separate the ego from what we're hearing. And we can say to everyone, listen, I know everybody has a thought, everybody has an opinion, but I think we've lost track of why we are actually having this conversation. I've been
Okay.
listening to all of these pieces, and I'm telling you, we've lost the core of why we're here.
Wow.
So
Okay.
those three things make introverts extremely powerful, and every team needs a introvert or two on them for long-term sustainable success.
Okay. And I would imagine because the introvert isn't speaking as much, when they do speak, maybe they have the ear of people and people listen up because they don't speak as much as well, which can be a powerful thing too, right?
Yeah, introverts have many drop the mic moments, right?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So if you're an introvert, be encouraged. You have what it takes to be a leader. Style might be
Yes.
different, but that's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the superpowers. What about the beware ofs, the things that introverts should be careful about that could hold them back if they're not aware in addressing those things?
Yeah, so I'd say the first is not owning your voice because when you're quiet, people will determine who you are and how you show up, and they will write your narrative. So you don't want to lose control of your own narrative. Second, I would say is most introverts tend to be a little bit more micromanaging in terms of getting lost in the details and in the weeds. So make that's a watch out. Make sure that you don't get so lost in the weeds that you can't elevate to the strategic levels that you need to be
Okay.
a strong leader.
Yeah.
Perfectionism, right? Because we do get lost in the weeds. We will tinker and tinker and tinker looking for perfection. There's no such thing. Just let yourself off the hook about that. And that ties a little bit to analysis paralysis, right? We will, because we're thinking constantly and going over things our heads over and over and over, it can trap us in this vicious cycle, which also can then slow down our ability to produce because we're
Yeah.
so caught up in the analysis part of it. Sometimes you just got to get stuff out the door.
Yeah. Got to get across that finish line.
Got to get it across the finish line for
Yeah, got to
sure.
know not got to know when good enough is good enough. And
Yes.
I've experienced that too, trying to make it perfect, perfect, perfect. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need to get it done. Somebody told me if you get it to 80%, and then what about working through other people? Because you know how individual contributors maybe have to make that shift to leading versus doing. And as an introvert, especially if, like if you're in an analytical role, it's so natural to who we are. Sometimes
Mhm.
a lot of introverts think that they aren't suitable to lead other people. It feels
Mm,
like an extroverted thing. Like extroverts are better fit to lead because of their ability to or their tendency to gravitate towards other people or not be drained by leading other people. And so some introverts shy away from it because they like that time to themselves and the idea of it might seem overwhelming or draining. What are
yeah.
your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all put into positions to drive impact.
Yeah.
The company doesn't care how you get that impact done. They just it's about impact. So if you the impact can be quiet, it can be thoughtful, it can be precise. That's an introvert kind of style.
Yeah.
Um, so that's important. It's I think the big shift that needs to help happen in the workplace is how we define leadership. It doesn't
Hmm.
it's not based on your external manifestations.
Yeah.
It's about what you deliver. And if companies can get to just focus on the delivery part of it, we'd be all in a much better place. But again, for an introvert, as long as you're delivering impact, don't change. You have to be authentic to who you are.
Okay. All right. So focus on the impact, not the style.
Yep.